Before a word was spoken, before a verse was ever written, before a robe was passed from one master to the next, in the dark of night, when nobody else was watching, there was already awakening. Not an idea, not a doctrine, not something somebody invented, something that was already complete. It was just waiting for someone to notice it. And the man who noticed it? He couldn't read. He couldn't write. He sold firewood for a living. So here's the question I want you to sit with for the next 20 minutes. If enlightenment really does require years of study, perfect discipline, a spotless resume as a monk, how does an illiterate firewood seller end up becoming the sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism? The one whose teaching basically reshaped an entire tradition? That's not a trick question. It's the whole point of the story you're about to hear. This is the story of Huineng, the sixth Zen patriarch. And I'll be honest with you, out of everything I've come across in years of studying this stuff, this one hit me harder than almost anything else. So I want to walk you through it properly, slowly, the way it actually happened. Here's a number for you. Over 1,000 people were in the room the day this story really kicks off. More than 30 government officials, more than 30 scholars, 1,000 monks, nuns, and ordinary people. And not one of them asked for a miracle. Not one asked for a blessing. They asked for the essence, the real thing. No decoration. That's where we start. Picture this: a monastery called Baolin, Treasure Grove, somewhere in southern China. A local governor, a man named Wei, walks in with his staff. He personally invites this Zen master to come speak at the lecture hall of a bigger monastery in the city, Dafan Si. The master takes his seat. And that's when it happens. The room, over 1,000 people, all bow at once. Now, normally, when you've got that many people in a room with a famous spiritual teacher, what do they want? Healing, luck, some kind of supernatural favor. Not this crowd. They want him to explain how he actually got there. How does a person actually wake up? So the master starts talking, and the first thing out of his mouth isn't a slow buildup. It's a flat-out claim. Bodhi, enlightenment, is fundamentally pure in its self-nature. You just use the mind you already have, and you reach Buddhahood directly, completely. Sit with that for a second, because it's actually a radical statement. He's not saying, polish your mind for 30 years and maybe you'll get there. He's saying, the thing you're looking for is already inside the mind you're using right now, today, to listen to this video. Not later, not after some purification process, directly, completely. That's a strong claim. So now he has to back it up. And he does, by telling his own story from the very beginning. His father had been exiled to a rough southern region and died young. So it was just Huineng and his elderly mother. Dirt poor, no land, no connections. No monastery, no scriptures, no teacher. Just survival. He says it himself, plainly. I sold firewood in the marketplace. That's the entire resume. One day, a customer buys some firewood and has him deliver it to his shop. Huineng gets paid, walks out the gate, completely ordinary moment, nothing special happening, and he hears someone reciting a scripture out loud. He doesn't go inside. He doesn't sit down and study it. He just hears it, in passing. He simply hears it in passing, out in the backyard. And by his own account, as soon as I heard the words of the sutra, my mind opened forth in enlightenment. Now, here's the twist almost nobody expects the first time they hear this story. That moment, hearing a few lines of scripture in the backyard while doing manual labor, that was already it. That was the opening. Not full mastery yet, but the door was open. So naturally he asks, "What sutra is this?" The man answers, "The Diamond Sutra." He asks where it came from. The man tells him about a monastery up north, Dongchan-si, run by the 5th Patriarch, a master named Huineng, who has over 1,000 students, and who tells everyone, monk or layperson, the exact same thing. Just hold to this one sutra, and you can see your own nature directly. So Huineng makes a decision. Someone gives him a bit of silver to take care of his mother. He says goodbye. For the last time, as it turns out. And within 30 days, he walks all the way to Huangmei to find this master. He bows before the 5th Patriarch. The Patriarch's first question is blunt. "Where are you from, and what is it you're after?" Huineng answers, "I'm a commoner from the south. I've come to pay my respects. I want Buddhahood, nothing else." And the Patriarch tests him immediately. "You're from the south? That's barbarian country. How could someone like you ever become a Buddha?" This is the line everyone remembers. Huineng doesn't flinch. People may come from north or south, but Buddha nature has no north and south. My body is different from yours, but how could the Buddha nature inside us be different at all? Read that again, because it's the philosophical spine of the entire story. Geography, status, education, background, none of it touches what he's talking about. The nature he's pointing to isn't something you build through privilege. It's already equally there, in everyone. The 5th Patriarch clearly sees something in this answer, but there are other students watching, so he says nothing more, just go work. Huineng asks one more thing, almost cheekily. "My mind already generates wisdom on its own. What work would you have me do?" The Patriarch snaps back, calls him a sharp-tongued outsider, tells him to stop talking, and sends him to the work shed. So now what does the future 6th Patriarch of Zen do? He chops kindling. He pounds rice. For more than 8 months. No teachings, no ceremonies, no special attention. Then one day the Patriarch shows up unannounced and says something strange. "I thought your understanding might be useful, but I was afraid jealous people might hurt you. That's why I haven't spoken to you. Do you understand?" Huineng says, "I understood. That's why I never walk near the main hall, so I don't remind anyone I exist." That detail matters. He wasn't hiding because he doubted himself. He was hiding to protect himself from other people's jealousy. Already, quietly, he understood something most of the senior students hadn't figured out yet. Then the real test arrives. The 5th Patriarch gathers everyone and says something pretty blunt. Life and death is the great matter for every human being, and all you people do is chase blessings. So he gives them a challenge. Each of you write a verse, he says. Show it to me. Whoever truly understands the great meaning gets the robe, the teaching, and becomes the sixth patriarch. Think about the stakes here. This isn't a classroom assignment. This is literally the succession of an entire lineage, on the line, decided by a single poem. And here's what's wild. Almost nobody even tries. The other students just assume, Shensho will get it. Why bother writing anything? Shensho was the senior disciple, clearly the most learned, the obvious heir. Only Shensho himself was tortured by the pressure. For days, Shensho can't settle his mind. Finally, late one night, he sneaks out and writes his verse directly on a corridor wall, anonymously. The body is the Bodhi tree. The mind is like a mirror's bright stand. Be always diligent. Wipe it clean. Don't let dust collect. It's a beautiful image. Discipline, polishing, constant effort to keep the mind clear of mental dust. The patriarch reads it the next morning. Publicly, he praises it, but privately, he tells Shensho something very different. You've only made it as far as the gate. You haven't actually walked inside yet. Meanwhile, Huineng, still pounding rice in the back, still can't read a single character, overhears an acolyte reciting that verse out loud near the mill. And the moment he hears it, he just knows. Something's missing. Here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. A man who's never read a sutra in his life can hear one verse from the most senior student in the monastery and immediately sense that it hasn't actually touched the nature it's describing. Not because he's clever, because of what already opened in him back in the courtyard years earlier. So he asks to be taken to the wall. I can't read, he says. Read it to me. Someone does, and Huineng says, I have a verse too. He dictates it on the spot. Bodhi is fundamentally without any tree. The bright mirror is also not a stand. Fundamentally, there is not a single thing. Where could any dust be attracted? The crowd around him gasps. Where Shensho describes a mind that needs constant maintenance, Huineng is pointing at something with nothing to maintain in the first place. No tree to grow, no mirror stand to wipe down, nothing standing there for dust to land on. So what does the fifth patriarch do? He has someone erase the verse off the wall with a sandal. That sounds harsh, but here's the real reason. He already knew instantly that this verse meant Huineng had actually seen his own nature. And that recognition was dangerous. The senior monks, the ones who'd studied for decades, could turn jealous fast if they realized an illiterate rice pounder had just outclassed their best student. So the patriarch erased the evidence to protect Huineng, not to dismiss him. And here's where the story goes quiet. Literally. That night, the patriarch comes to Huineng in secret. No ceremony, no witnesses, just one question. Is the rice ripe yet? Huineng answers, it's been ripe a long time. It just hasn't been sifted. A simple exchange about rice, except it isn't about rice at all. At the third watch of the night, meaning deep, deep into the dark hours when nobody else is awake, the patriarch privately teaches him the Diamond Sutra, one-on-one. And when Huineng hears the line, responding to the non-abiding, yet generating the mind, enlightenment fully erupts. This is the line we opened the video with, the one carved at the start of this whole episode. No matter when, the self-natures are fundamentally and naturally pure. Not becomes pure, not will be purified after enough practice. Already, fundamentally, naturally pure, right now, in this exact moment, regardless of when now happens to be. And that's it. No applause, no announcement to the assembly. The robe and the teaching pass from one patriarch to the next, in the middle of the night, in total silence. Stop and notice what's missing here. No graduation ceremony, no public crowning. The most important transmission in the history of Chinese Zen happens with two people, a candle, and silence. Because the thing being passed on was never an object. It was a recognition. And recognition doesn't need an audience. So let's pull the thread all the way through, because the logic here is actually very clean once you see it laid out. Point 1. The nature he's pointing to. Call it Buddha nature, call it awakened mind, whatever word you want, was never something Huineng had to build. It was already there before he ever heard a single sutra. Point 2. Status, literacy, decades of training. None of that is a prerequisite. Shen Xiu had all of it and still, by the patriarch's own words, only got as far as the gate. Huineng had none of it and walked straight through. Point 3. Hearing, really hearing, not just listening politely, was enough to open the door in the backyard that day. The deepening that came later with the patriarch wasn't adding something new. It was removing the remaining doubt about something already present. That's the whole architecture of this story. Not build a better mind, not earn your way to purity. Just stop assuming there's distance between you and what you're looking for. If any part of this story felt strangely familiar to you while you were watching, don't rush to name it. Don't grab onto it. Don't try to explain it away. Just let it sit there for a second. So here's what I want you to walk away with. A man with nothing, no education, no money, no standing, became the carrier of an entire tradition, not because he added something to himself, but because he stopped standing in the way of what was already there. That's the whole story, and honestly, that's why it's stayed with me longer than almost anything else I've covered on this channel. If this is the kind of story you want more of, real teachings, told straight, no fluff, then do 3 things right now. Hit subscribe, tap that notification bell so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment telling me which line in this story hit you the hardest. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know, because the next story is already waiting. And if something in you is quietly being called to keep walking this path, I'll see you there. Until then, rest in what doesn't move.